Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for coming back to my channel. This one is going to be PO number 5. And in PO number 5, I'm going to try to elaborate on what the benefits and the drawbacks of public opinions and the political outcomes are a result of. And I'm going to do that by using the comparison of what is many people have talked about in different areas, but it pretty much means the beginning, the basically prospering of, and the end of a nation or a country, any way that you want to rephrase it. And I think this also probably belongs to organizations as well, because I think that I have latched on to something that will give us a progression of how things develop. And what I'm going to do now is talk about the United States of America. And the United States of America, people that know the history know about the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams. A lot of people got together, and their goal was to give the citizens freedom. Now, freedom, Americans believe, is a right, not a benefit or a privilege. It is a right of every human being on the face of the planet to have as much freedom in their life as they can possibly have. So I'm going to use the founding fathers. I have already expressed they came up with an ingenious system, which is you have to absolutely separate religion from politics, because the two don't mix. They can't flow together. They are totally opposite of each other. Religion teaches you how to live a good life and be a good person to other people. Now, that's not all religions, because we have the people who refer to themselves as uh, Muslims or Islamic people. Well, we know from history, and I've already stated this, Muhammad never existed. It's all made up. So the Muslim religion they're talking about is a little side twist or a left turn from Christianity, because they were Christians in Egypt. And when Constantine told them they had to clean up the Christian religion because it was all over the place, as I said before, they came up with orthodoxy and heresy. And the one that the Egypt was concerned about is the Trinity. And they thought that the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost was worshiping three gods, not one God. And so when Constantine told them to clean it up, they just made it to be a part of heresy. So now they're calling the Egyptian Christians heretics. And the Egyptian Christians don't think they're heretics, but that started the beginning of the Muslim religion. And eventually, Muhammad was made up, doing crazy things, marrying 9-year-old girls, totally marrying them when they're 6 and having sex with them when they're 9. Well, that's absolutely ridiculous. It is so stupid that any 20-year-old or 18-year-old human being on the face of the planet that is not less than average, in other words, is not handicapped in some way, that has at least 10% less than average ability, all knows that is stupid and wrong. And so, what I'm going to do is use the expression of the United States of America. And what I'm going to say is, when the United States of America was formed, the founding fathers made up something that we have to look back on and accept now as a wonderful invention of their idea of society. And that is, there is a right and there is a wrong. And There is no deviation. What is right is right. There are no gray areas. In what people refer to as gray areas, they throw things in that make people not be aware of things that maybe an average person should be aware of. So they say there is room to move difference between right and wrong. No, something is right until it is twisted enough that it's no longer right and it immediately becomes wrong. So when a nation is started, they have right and wrong, because in right and wrong is when you can have freedom, because everything that's not a rule of the government, but people are willing to be able to invent and create anything that is not detrimental to other Homo sapiens. So, in the beginning of a country, a new nation is formed when people have more freedom than they've had in the past under the regime that they were in previously and did not appreciate or respect. And you'll know the reason they don't when we get to the end. There's only 3 stages that I'm going to talk about. I'm sure that people can make up a lot of places in between the 3, but I am broad brushing this because this is just one of my political opinion, number 5, and I'm going to cover that in this broad brush stroke of right from wrong. When we get away from the right and wrong, it happens because, as I've said before, no 2 people have the same opinion. And even when you read a law, you can twist it the other way. Now, I gave that example by, as I've said before, women should be totally equal in the world. They should have a right to let men take advantage, sexual advantage of their body, as long as they compensate them for them. And as I said before, my son says you're phrasing that wrong. What you're doing is you're getting the sex free and you're paying the woman to leave. With that definition, you're not breaking the law. The law says you can't pay for having sex. Well, I think it's a bad law. It's a stupid law. It's a law that is made, but it wasn't made by the founding fathers. It came into existence much later. And I know that when the Second World War broke out, just before that time, there were many brothels throughout the United States of America in many, many states and counties of the government. But when they made it illegal, then they all went by the wayside, except one little county in Nevada. But as I said before, I understand that people interpret the Bible as being one man and one woman. Well, that is a one good system that works. I only had one wife. I'm only going to have one wife as long as I live, and my wife has been dead now for more than 10 years. And so I have girlfriends now that I have relationships with, and we get to do things together that I enjoy doing. And it's no one's business what we do, as long as they are willing to do it and I enjoy doing it, then it is our business and no one else's. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just using that as an example to move from stage 1 to stage 2. Now, stage 2 is when there is no longer a right and wrong in the country. The country has now progressed, because when you have that much freedom and you have that much clarity for people to work within, they prosper. They will always prosper. They will never not prosper. They will be capitalist, then not socialist and communist, which are both seriously flawed attitudes that don't really exist. They're just the same as Mohammedanism. They're an idea that does not work. And the reason that doesn't work is they take out the competition. When you remove the competition, you removed a system that changes what that system is. And that's why socialism and communism, it's just as stupid as being a Muslim, because Muslims don't exist. They believe something that's all a fraud. And that's the same with socialists and capitalists. They believe something that is a fraud. But it brings me to the next stage. The stage now is when the government is a government of agreement. Now, agreement doesn't mean that everything is right and wrong anymore. It just means that some things have been twisted by some people to the extent that what is wrong is now considered acceptable. It doesn't make it right. It just means that that's a fact of what's going on. And America has already entered that stage, and I think is getting, at this current time, is starting to move into the final stage of a nation. And that after the final stage is the destruction of the nation. Getting along means, I said, everyone has different opinions, and I told you about my son and his idea. When you have a country of freedom, the way you're free is you have what we refer to as a constitution that has rules that are spelled out in writing so everyone can read them and understand what the rules are. And as long as those rules are obeyed, then you are free. Now, the example I'm going to use in America that shows that we have already gone beyond that is, I've already expressed before that when I was young and just got married and was going to our honeymoon apartment in Berkeley, I got a traffic ticket. And the judge gave me a ticket for having several moving violations prior to that, so he fined me extra. Well, that caused me to go to Boalt Hall in Berkeley, which is their law library, and look up the law. And after some help from a young lady there, I was very unhappy to find out that I had never broken the law, because the law says you cannot drive your vehicle at a rate of speed that endangers life or property. But it gives the government the opportunity to post speed limits that tell you what the reasonable speed of that area is. And so most speed limits people run across are 25, 35, 45, and 50 miles an hour, because now after the fuel crisis, we do have a maximum speed limit of 55 miles an hour in a rural 2-lane undivided road in California. And so therefore they have, since the federal government made us have basically maximum speed limits, the government of California has adopted that one. The other one is on freeways. The maximum speed limit on any freeway is 65 miles an hour unless posted differently, and then it can be 70 miles an hour. So there are 3 different maximum speed limits, and they do have a 25 mile an hour in school zone. Schools are in session, and children are present on the sidewalk or next to the road. Then it's 25 miles an hour. But unfortunately, as I expressed before, when I found that out, I started having jury trials. And that went along for the next 20 years, and I was not found guilty one time because I'd never broken the law. Because the law is what has something wrong with it. It says the officer can assume that if you've gone beyond the posted speed limit, you've endangered life and property. But if you haven't endangered life or property, you haven't broken the law. There is no maximum speed limit in the state of California for anything other than the ones that I told you. The 25 in a school zone, the 55 in a rural road, and the 65 and 70 on the highways. Now, unfortunately, there are officers, and I met one at my last ticket, that said the posted 40-mile-an-hour speed limit is the maximum speed limit you can drive in that area. That is retarded. It is stupid. And I have to say it's stupid. This was a California Highway Patrol female who does not know the law and is too stupid to understand why she's wrong. But I had to endure that, and I did take traffic school. The judge did let me do traffic school, but it makes me realize, because I presented evidence in that case on 3 different areas, any one of the 3, I would have had to have been found not guilty. And there were 3 of them. And notwithstanding the fact there were 3 separate ones that absolutely proved I was not guilty, I was found guilty. Now that can only happen one way, and that is if the hearing officer, and in California they stopped making it misdemeanor and they made it an infraction. And an infraction, the fine is so insignificant that it doesn't constitute a violation of the Constitution. Well, that is a made-up, another stupid law. Now, why do we have these stupid laws? Because we have professional politicians. Professional politicians, or anyone that served in the same office more than twice, or 50% of his life in, quote, public service, is nothing but a pig eating at the public trough. And we have probably twice as many pigs eating at the public trough than we do people who are not professional politicians. Countries continue to go the wrong way until they're destroyed. And that is the midway. And even lawyers have put up with that, and they let the law stand, and the law is absolutely flawed. There's everything wrong with it. It makes the hearing officer the prosecutor and the judge. And in America, back when you had right and wrong, you were considered innocent until proven guilty. Now you're considered guilty unless you can prove yourself innocent. That is by agreement. Now the people have gone along with it. I don't like it. If I had a way to make sure it got changed, I would do that. But like I said, I am not a professional politician. I am not even a politician. I do not say things to people that endear me to them so that I get elected. And I have to say, unfortunately, my videos aren't doing all that well either. And so the people that do think that I have something to contribute should tell their friends, because other than that, no one's going to watch it. They say that any time on YouTube, there's going to be at least 3 billion different videos at any given time. So that's way too many for people to hunt down and find out, unless someone recommends it to them. But getting back to the story we want here, this is an example of how we moved from right and wrong to agreement. Now, under agreement, the country hasn't gone down the toilet yet. But the trouble with agreement is you're going in that direction. So any government that realizes that you have gone to agreement, you need to clean up the act. You have to find out what's going wrong, why you've drifted from the thing that made you successful in the first place. The United States of America has been the only nation that we're aware of in the world, other than maybe the Philistines, and we don't know enough about them to be able to compare them. But the United States of America has been the strongest, most powerful nation on the planet of the earth ever to exist in such a short period of time. And that is why America stands out as a jewel among every other nation in the planet, because the founding fathers gave us freedom, and the freedom is guaranteed with the Constitution. That means it's written down. And unfortunately, 90% of everything that's going on in America is unconstitutional in its present form. They cannot change the Constitution, so they leave the Constitution and they just make up the lie that this isn't in violation of the Constitution. That's why I keep saying we need to convert to artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will restore us back to right from wrong. And we will not get away with having it watered down because we have to agree with people that feel they get a benefit from doing what's wrong. Most of those laws are in violation of the Constitution, and as I've expressed before, the Supreme Court of the United States is not doing their third to make sure the government stays strong by no particular entity being stronger than the other two. All three of them were put in place to keep a governing body on the ones that might get out of control. Well, let me tell you, the enforcement, the legislative, judicial, and executive branch of government, the executive branch of government has gone over the top. And I've expressed that in my issue about the city of Martinez. And not only did they go over the top, but then the judiciary backed them up. So that's why America has gone down the toilet. And I've told you that that happened 40 or 50 years ago. So it's been a long time in the past. The last 40 or 50 years, we've continued to go downhill. Now, unfortunately, what I have to say now is let's move forward and go to the last stage that we would have before someone ends the nation that existed and was successful at one time. And that is you move to power. And by power, I mean some people, using the laws that they have twisted, gain power over other citizens. So we have citizens that are powerful and citizens that are weaker. And as that third system goes up, the distance between the first and the second phase takes a long time. The founding fathers were over 200 years ago, and it's taken 200 years to move from stage 1 to stage 2. Now, in the last 75 to 100 years, in stage 2, we're well into stage 3. There are powerful people in America. There are weak people in America. That's because all three branches of government, not one of them has continued to do their job. If one of them had done their job, then the other two would have to still stay in line. The legislative branch have not made laws that keep professional politicians from being a part of the program. America is a land of the free and the home of the brave because we are a government of the people, for the people, by the people. Now, by the people is the one I'm talking about. George Orwell said over 100 years ago that if you have had more than 2 terms in political office or half of your life in political office, and he did not use that description, but he talked about people that had power. Yeah, and that you have to go through the middle section before they get to the powerful. He said the people that have power in government are not serving the government. They're just pigs eating at the public trough. And so we have going from stage 2 to stage 3 because we basically have become a country of pigs eating at our public trough. And that's what's happening in the United States of America. And if people don't stand up and change it, it's going to continue to its conclusion. And the conclusion is there's going to be powerful people, and there will be more powerful people and fewer of them, and more powerful people and fewer of them. when you get down to where everyone else is weaker and there is a king, by that time the country has been overthrown, because we have already learned that only in Iran do we have the kind of retarded government that allows a religious person who is a criminal and needs to be executed for his murdering his innocent citizens of his country only because they don't agree with him. That is as absurd and as stupid can get. You can't be more stupid than that. Now, I know I promised Hawaiian honey, but in Hawaiian honey, I'm talking about the people in the middle who have a different opinion but don't have the power. The people that have the power include the ruler of Russia now, who thinks that he's some kind of god ruling them and supposedly won the election, which I doubt very much that he did. But since he's the one that counts the votes, we know he's always going to win the election, and he needs to be exterminated because he's nothing but a power grabber, and he needs to be annihilated. The United Nations should have put a reward on his head at least 2 terms ago, because any time that you are a ruler of a nation and have power in that nation, and 3 of your citizens are murdered by your government, you don't belong there. And Putin does not belong in anything. He should get his money and get out of Dodge and let the government go back to a government of the people, not a power play for Putin to steal everything he can get his hands on. And that's what Russia is today. Just a power play for Russia to get everything they get their hands on, and it doesn't go to Russia, it goes to Putin. He's the criminal, he's the thief, he's the corrupt person that needs to be annihilated. But we have the one at Iran is no better, and he's even worse than Putin because he was even put in as a religious leader, and that is absolutely unacceptable at all times. No religious leader can run any country without exception. None. And that takes you to the ones that call themselves Muslims. The Muslims think only the religion has to rule the land. Well, that is so retarded that even no place in this society until the very end, when you're a king of a country, and everyone else you're servants, and you're free to kill anyone you feel like killing. You can do anything you want to do because you're the king and you get to do everything you want, and you can abuse anyone in your society. If they have money, you kill them and steal their money. That's what Putin does, and that's what tyrants do. Every Muslim that does anything that they would not want someone to do to them are tyrants. And all tyrants need to be caged or killed without exception. Now, I have gone through the 3 stages of government. America is moving very quickly into the last stage, and all you have to do in the next few years, watch the people become more powerful, and the overwhelming majority will become weaker. And as that gets to the breaking point, the weak will rise up, destroy the powerful, and the country will start over again with a new nation under a new name, and that will be the end of it. So since I've expressed in public opinion number 5, the rise, the ruling of, and the fall of a nation, they all follow the same pattern. And that's how they come into existence, because people want to be free, and they go out of existence because people aren't free. And with that, I'm going to have to probably say an end, because I think I've gone my 20 minutes. And I hope that if you've enjoyed anything I said, you'll tell your friends and subscribe and come back to see me on public opinion number 6 and we'll get down to specifics about different areas that I have talked on this one. And for now, this is the end of Public Opinion number 5.